Good morning.
It's a familiar voice.
Some fruits and vegetables.
Welcome to Ottawa,
Nice to see you.
again.
It's good to be here.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Sir?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Perfect. Good morning, everybody. Bienvenue tout le monde. Welcome to Ottawa West Nepean, to Produce Depot here in my riding. I'm Anita Vandenbelt, and I am joined here by several parliamentary colleagues. We have with us Bruce Fanjoy and Giovanna Mingarelli, Jenna Suds, Yasser Naqvi, et je suis très heureuse d'accueillir aujourd'hui le Premier ministre du Canada. Very happy to be welcoming Prime Minister MarkCarney and Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne. Welcome back to Ottawa West Nepean.
Thank you very much. Well, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Bonjour, bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. C'est un plaisir d'être ici. Merci Anita pour l'introduction. Merci aux collègues d'être ici avec nous. Merci aussi à Dave, qui est le propriétaire de Produce Depot, qui est ici avec sa femme, son fils et toute l'équipe qui est avec nous. On me dit 90 collaborateurs. Alors, merci de nous accueillir chez vous ce matin pour une annonce des plus importantes. As colleagues would know and Canadians watching, affordability is top of mind for millions of young Canadians, millions of seniors and families across our nation. I can assure you it's also top of mind for the Prime Minister, for this government, and I would say for all my colleagues. So today we are taking additional measures to support Canadians in times of need. For many families, the cost of living is a real challenge. Affordability doesn't exist in isolation. It is a global phenomenon felt across G7 nations. Affordability is closely tied to how our economy performs and how well it works for people across our great country. That's why with the Prime Minister, we are building the strongest economy in the G7. You have heard me say that many times before, but with Budget 2025, we are making generational investments in infrastructure, in housing, in productivity and innovation, because it affects how Canadians live, work, and plan for their future. Doubling overseas exports, as the Prime Minister have challenged us and our nation. Supercharging major project development, building one Canadian economy, and maintaining Canada's tax competitiveness all have a tangible impact on our standard of living. Taken together, these measures will enable more than $1 trillion in total investment in our economy by 2030. But we also recognize, we are very well aware that these are medium and long-term efforts that we need to do together. Right now, many Canadians are facing immediate challenges at the end of the week, at the end of the month, and our responsibility is to help bridge peoples through this moment. We need to provide the bridge to people while our broader plans takes hold. Notre gouvernement a déjà mis en place plusieurs mesures pour réduire le coût de la vie. Dès l'arrivée du Premier ministre Carney au pouvoir, nous avons réduit les impôts pour 22 millions de Canadiens et Canadiennes, représentant jusqu'à 840 $ pour une famille à 2 revenus. Nous avons mis fin à la taxe carbone sur les consommateurs, ce qui a permis de réduire le prix de l'essence d'environ 18 cents le litre dans la plupart des provinces et des territoires. Nous continuons de réduire le coût des services de garde, une mesure phare de notre gouvernement, faisant en sorte que les familles de plus de 900 000 enfants puissent économiser des milliers de dollars par année. Nous avons rendu permanent le programme national d'alimentation scolaire afin de pouvoir nourrir jusqu'à 400 000 enfants par année et aussi de permettre à une famille participante de 2 enfants d'économiser 800 $ en moyenne par année. Et nous mettons en place des prestations fédérales automatiques pour 5,5 millions d'individus d'ici 2028 pour que les Canadiens reçoivent simplement et de façon fiable l'aide à laquelle ils ont droit. As you all know, affordability is a central measure of our economic success. Raising our collective standard of living is the central objective of our government. Canadians need to feel the benefits of the economic growth in their wallets, and at the kitchen table. That's why strengthening the economy and supporting Canadians must go hand in hand. And that's what we are committed as a government to do. Affordable housing helps workers live closer to their job. Accessible childcare helps parents fully participate in the workforce. Food security means Canadians can afford healthy meals without ever having to choose between eating well and without sacrificing other needs. With all these measures, we are building Canada strong. A Canada where life is more affordable, a Canada with strong communities, and a Canada we can all be proud of. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I will invite the Prime Minister to address you. Monsieur le Premier ministre.
Merci. Merci, Monsieur le Ministre. Thank you, François-Philippe. Thank you, colleagues, for being here. Dave, Donnelly, thank you for welcoming us here to this remarkable establishment that has served the people of Nepean, of Ottawa, for over 30 years, 34 years and counting. It is a pleasure to be here with my colleagues from the National Capital Region. Anita, again. Anita, where are you? There you are. Yep. Thank you for having us here. And Dave and team, again, for welcoming us. Look, we're in a situation where, and Canadians know this, the world's rapidly changing. That's leaving a cloud of uncertainty and worry hanging over all of us, Canadian businesses, Canadian workers, Canadian families. Our government's focused on what we can control, and that starts with building a stronger, more resilient Canadian economy. So Canada is less reliant on a single trading partner, and we are more resilient to global shocks, what happens outside of our country. Nous agissons sans tarder et nous voyons des résultats. Nous avons déjà signé 12 accords commerciaux et de la sécurité sur 4 continents au cours des 6 derniers mois pour forger des partenariats fiables à l'étranger. Nous avons soumis au Bureau des grands projets 11 projets qui représentent des investissements de 116 milliards de dollars au Canada. Le nouveau fonds pour bâtir des collectivités fortes permettra d'aménager des infrastructures locales dans des quartiers partout au Canada. Hôpitaux, routes, ponts et réseaux de transport en commun. Toutes ces mesures font partie de notre stratégie globale qui vise à susciter des investissements de 1 000 milliards de dollars au cours des 5 prochaines années. So we're starting to fundamentally transform our economy, building a stronger, more resilient, more independent Canada. It's already getting results. Dozens of new partnerships abroad, launching Build Canada homes, fast-tracking major nation-building projects. Our economy, Canada's economy, has created 190,000 jobs on net since August. In absolute terms, that's more than the United States over the same period. We have the right plan. The world is knocking at our door, and momentum is building. But as the Minister of Finance just said, the biggest payoffs will take time. And many Canadians are feeling the pressures right now of everyday expenses. Canadians need a boost today and a bridge to tomorrow. And that's why Canada's new government has been relentlessly focused on making life more affordable for Canadians. On day one, we canceled the consumer carbon tax, bringing down gas prices by 18 cents a litre. We then cut taxes for 22 middle-class Canadians, saving a two-income family up to $840 this year. We've cut taxes for first-time home buyers, saving them up to $50,000 on their first home purchase. Out east, we've reduced tolls for vehicles on the Confederation Bridge, cutting them from over $50 to $20, and cut fares by 50% on ferries in Atlantic Canada. As the Minister just mentioned, we launched automatic federal benefits, which will help 5.5 million lower-income Canadians get the benefits to which they are entitled, like the disability tax credit, and indeed the new measures that we're announcing today. We made the national school program permanent, feeding 400,000 children healthy meals while saving their parents $800 per year on groceries. We also have a series of initiatives that will improve affordability by making structural changes to our economy. That's like building lots of affordable housing through Build Canada Homes. And last week's new strategic partnership with China will make available tens of thousands of affordable electric vehicles in Canada. Nous avons appuyé la décision de CRTC de prolonger l'accès obligatoire au marché de gros dans le secteur des télécommunications pour une seule raison: réduire le coût de l'accès à Internet haute vitesse pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes, pour vous. Dans le budget 2025, notre gouvernement a protégé les programmes sociaux essentiels qui offrent à chaque Canadien une chance équitable de réussir: les garderies, les soins dentaires et l'assurance médicaments. Au cours des prochaines années, notre gouvernement travaillera sans relâche à améliorer l'abordabilité pour tous les Canadiens. Now, bigger picture, overall inflationary pressures are easing. The consumer price inflation rate is back in the Bank of Canada's target range, and average wages in our country have consistently grown faster than the rate of inflation since this government took office. Fees for childcare across Canada have dropped by around 35% over the last 3 years, thanks to our childcare program. The average cost of cell services has fallen by more than 40% since 2020. That is, if you're able to switch plans. Gas prices have dropped by 14% from where they were a year ago, helped by that elimination of the consumer carbon tax. That's all good news. And with our economic plan kicking into gear, there's more good news on the horizon. But at the same time, for many Canadians, the cost of groceries and everyday essentials has been too high for too long. They need more support now. The pandemic caused inflation to spike worldwide, pushing up those costs of groceries and essentials, including rent. Global supply chain shocks, subsequently shocks caused by tariffs, weather events from our changing climate, and geopolitical disruptions have caused food prices to rise faster than overall inflation. So orange juice is up 12% year on year, ground beef up 19%, coffee and tea up by 24%. Ce problème ne touche pas seulement une minorité de gens très vulnérables. L'an dernier, Banque alimentaire Canada a déclaré que près de 2,2 millions de Canadiens se rendent chaque mois dans une banque alimentaire. Actuellement, 25% des ménages composent avec l'insécurité alimentaire et 50% des Canadiens sont à deux doigts de devoir se tourner vers une banque alimentaire. So last week, just a few days ago, in Quebec City, our cabinet convened and we focused on how to make life more affordable for Canadians now, and also how to tackle the root causes of food insecurity in Canada. Those deliberations including a long conversation with Kirsten Beardsley, the CEO of Food Banks Canada, to talk about these critical issues and what different levels of government can do to address them. You know, one of the best things, and there are many great things about our country, but one of the best things about our country is that we look out for each other, that we believe our economy is strongest when it serves every Canadian. So we're acting today, Canada's new government is acting today to provide a boost to those Canadian families who most need one, while creating a bridge to longer-term food security and affordability. Everyone pays the same GST on items that they buy, no matter how much money they make. But since groceries and other essentials make up a larger share of the budget of lower-income Canadians, the GST puts a higher burden on those less well-off. The GST credit has helped to make our tax system fairer by returning a portion of the federal sales tax to Canadians with lower incomes, providing relief for people who feel the extra cost at the checkout most acutely. The rise in food prices means that a lot of these Canadians need more support right now. So today we're announcing that our government is launching the new Canada's Groceries and Essentials benefit. This will deliver hundreds of dollars more into the bank accounts of more than 12 million Canadians. Starting this year, we're taking the existing GST credit amount and raising it by 25% for 5 years. And in addition, we're providing a one-time payment equivalent to 50% of the GST credit this year. So what does that mean? Well, right now, a family of 4 receives about $1,100 a year with the existing GST credit. With the new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit, that same family will receive up to $1,890 this year and about $1,400 a year for each of the next 4 years. A single person receives about $540 a year with the existing credit. With the new benefit, that person will receive up to $950 this year and about $700 a year for the next 4 years. On average, these payments make up for the higher level of food prices since the pandemic. In parallel, we're working to address the root causes of inflation and working on longer-term solutions to bring down the cost of groceries in Canada. That starts by improving the resilience of our supply chains. Because when issues arise in supply chains, from transportation to process to distribution, costs rise at every step along the way, and these costs end up on grocery bills. Tariffs, for example, are part of that problem. In September, the government launched what we called a new Strategic Response Fund to help sectors across our economy, those impacted by tariffs, to adapt, to diversify, and to grow. And today, we are committing $500 million from this fund to support capital investments to help food businesses expand capacity, increase productivity, and strengthen our food supply for the future. In addition, our Regional Tariff Response Initiative will provide $150 million for small and medium-sized enterprises to do similar things. This will mean more resilient supply chains, more greenhouses, more abattoirs that are closer to customers, and most importantly, will help mean lower food prices and better food security for Canadians. Pour réduire le coût de production des aliments, nous instaurons la passation en champs immédiats et accélérer les serres. Les producteurs peuvent donc déduire le coût total de la nouvelle serre sans tarder, ce qui leur permet de disposer de capitaux pour acquérir l'équipement moderne et ainsi accroître la production nationale d'aliments et cultiver davantage d'aliments ici au pays toute l'année. Les agriculteurs peuvent produire plus d'aliments à coût moindre, ce qui fait augmenter l'offre d'aliments canadiens et atténue les pressions sur les prix à l'épicerie pour les familles. To address the root causes of food security, we're developing a new national food security strategy that strengthens domestic food production, improves access to affordable, nutritious food. The strategy will include measures to implement unit label pricing so Canadians can compare easily in this era of shrinkflation. We're also going to provide support for the Competition Bureau in monitoring and enforcing competition in our market across the supply chain. And we will include new measures to strengthen food security in the North, where food insecurity and affordability challenges are felt most intensely. To ease immediate pressures for food banks, we're providing $20 million in a top-up to the local food infrastructure fund. This will help boost community food programs and deliver more nutritious food for families in need. Canadians, are generous people. We take care of each other, particularly in times of need. We know we're stronger together. And during this time of global turmoil, Canadians are coming together to build Canada strong, to build a more independent, secure, and prosperous country, a country that works for all. And we know that getting there will be tough at times. We know that progress won't always move in a straight line. So we know that in times like these, we don't just have to look out for ourselves, we have to take care of each other. And that starts with everyone being able to put good food on the table. That's why the government's working relentlessly to make life more affordable for everyone. That's why we're stepping up today to help people who need it the most. Because we can't control what other countries do, but we can control how we support each other during tough times. We can control what we build so that these times will be better in the future. We choose to build Canada strong for all Canadians. Thank you very much. Merci, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now begin the question portion of the press conference. On va maintenant commencer les questions. Première question, Tom.
Hi, Prime Minister. Tom Perry with CBC. Since your speech in Davos, we've had Donald Trump threaten fresh tariffs on Canada if we cut a deal with China. He's rescinded your invitation to the Board of Peace. He started calling you governor, like he did your predecessor. I'd like to know what you think about all that and what impact you think your speech had on Canada-U.S. relations.
Well, I think the first thing is that my comments in Davos laid out how we see the world, a recognition of how the world has changed. I think a point that Canadians understood months ago. In fact, I think Canada understood the scale of the change in U.S. trade policy, what it meant for our economy. We understood that well before other countries, and we started to react, controlling what we can control, building it at home, and very importantly, diversifying our trade partners abroad. That second bit is a positive thing. It's finding new partners. I mentioned in my remarks 12 new trade and security agreements in the past 6 months across 4 continents, more to come. For example, the commitment with India to work together is just one of many. And all of that builds our strength here at home, provides more opportunities, makes us less dependent on the United States. Last point, we are entering soon a negotiation or review formally of CUSMA, our agreement, as you know, with the United States and Mexico. It'll be a robust review is the expectation. The President is a strong negotiator, and I think some of these comments and positioning should be viewed in the broader context of that.
Going back to Davos as well, the President was interviewed on Fox News, and he talked about NATO troops and NATO troops staying back from the front in Afghanistan. I'm wondering if you think the President should apologize for that. On a secondary topic, on Greenland, he backed down from threats on Greenland. Do you think that's settled? Would Canada send troops to Greenland to support their European allies?
So let me be absolutely clear. With respect to the contribution, what everyone should recognize, Canadians recognize, and we are fundamentally grateful for the extraordinary contributions of the men and women of the Canadian Armed Forces in a variety of theaters, including very much Afghanistan. We were the first to invoke Article 5. We were the first to send support after 9/11 to New York City. We sent 40,000 Canadian troops serving over 13 years on the front lines in Afghanistan, in Kandahar as one example. 158 of those soldiers paid the ultimate sacrifice. One of our diplomats paid the ultimate sacrifice. Thousands more were injured. 30 of our soldiers won the American Bronze Star for service in combat, for courage in combat. It's an extraordinary contribution for liberty, for freedom, for human rights, defending the United States, defending Canadian values. Everyone should recognize that. All Canadians are in their debt. Now, I think you had a second part, but
On Greenland.
On Greenland.
Do you think that's settled, or and would you consider? Is
I
Canada
think
ready
that
to send
I
troops?
thought from the start the following, which is, and this is a point, by the way, I made at the NATO summit in June. The importance of reinforcing Arctic security across the entire Arctic theater, to use that term, which very much includes Greenland, Northern Arctic, the Nordic countries as well. It has been the view of this government that NATO has not put enough emphasis on that. Canada is putting emphasis since we've come into office. We put emphasis on that. And that the solution to the security needs of Greenland, but the entire Arctic region, is coordinated through NATO. First and foremost, Canada will take responsibility for our Arctic, but working in conjunction with others. We have close and deepening cooperation with the Nordic Baltic 8 group of countries. I've met with the NATO Secretary General on a couple of occasions, 3 occasions now, about this issue. And I think by reinforcing that security umbrella, it addresses the fundamental needs of those countries. Denmark addresses the fundamental needs of Greenland, helps support security in Canada. So that aspect is very much taken care of. Thank you.
Morning, Prime Minister. Michael Joe with CTV News. I just wanted to follow up on what Tom was asking. Are you offended by being called governor?
I mean, I think in this role you get called a lot of things, a lot of time, and I'm not going to comment on every tweet or truth or comment from whoever. So I can handle it.
As a follow-up,
but I do think this point about our troops is fundamental, and respecting our troops and the contribution that they've made.
I want to follow up on what you were saying yesterday outside of Cabinet or caucus. You said that Canada isn't pursuing a free trade agreement with China. What efforts are you or your ministers making with the Trump administration to communicate that to them so that those threats of tariffs stop?
Well, I interpreted the President's comments exactly that way, which is looking forward to were we pursuing a deeper free trade agreement. We've made it clear. My fellow members of Cabinet ministers have made it clear to their counterparts that that's the case. We've made the public point. And it's obvious. Look, Canada, when we sign an agreement, we sign a trade agreement, in this case USMCA as they call it, or CUSMA as we call it, there is a clause in that agreement, Article 32.10, I believe, which says that you will not have, you have to give notice, in effect, if you're pursuing a free trade agreement with a, quote, non-market economy. That's in the eye of the beholder who defines it, but it's a definition of any of the other parties who see somebody as a non-market economy. China is one of 15 or 17 economies that the U.S. views as non-market. I can understand why they say that. So we got an agreement. If we were even considering that, which we are not and never have, we would have given notice, and then there's a very open and transparent process. Thank you.
Bonjour, Monsieur Carney. Michel Sabat, la presse canadienne. Avez-vous des excuses à présenter aux Québécois et aux francophones du Canada pour vos propos sur les plaines? Et êtes-vous confortable à être le chef du camp du non lors d'un éventuel référendum sur la souveraineté du Québec?
En ce qui concerne mes commentaires, j'ai commencé par reconnaître la lutte des francophones au début, pendant l'histoire du Canada. Et j'ai mentionné, même souligné, les efforts de certains dans notre histoire de poursuivre une politique d'assimilation. Par exemple, le report de Durham est un exemple. Il y a d'autres plus sévères que ça. Et c'est à cause, j'ai dit, c'est à cause de la résilience du peuple francophone qu'on crée le Canada un Canada qui reconnaît deux peuples fondateurs et après un certain temps, trois peuples fondateurs, y compris le peuple autochtone. Alors, c'est un processus très difficile. Il y a la grande déplacement des Acadiens. Il y a plusieurs d'autres exemples. Alors, c'est une histoire très difficile. Mais avec temps, on a protégé et après une autre période de renforcer la langue française, la culture québécoise, la culture française, les institutions comme le Code civil et d'autres institutions. Et ça, c'est le génie du Canada. Et maintenant, le Canada n'est pas parfait, mais il y a une manière de vivre qui est mieux.
Bon, j'aurais quand même aimé vous entendre sur le qualificatif de chef du camp du non, mais je vais sauter à un autre aspect. M. Poilievre dit vouloir collaborer avec le gouvernement.
Ah,
Est-ce que ça nuit à vos efforts pour convaincre d'autres conservateurs de se joindre, de traverser la Chambre?
OK. Mon approche est de collaborer, de trouver des solutions pour les Canadiens et les Canadiens. Et il y a plusieurs occasions, plusieurs opportunités pour M. Poilievre et le Parti conservateur, le Bloc, les néo-démocrates de collaborer sur, par exemple, il y aura une Ways and Means probablement dans une semaine, dans les prochains jours, probablement. On doit être prudent avec les règles parlementaires, mais tantôt, il y aura une occasion de faire le passage rapidement de ces initiatives. Il y a l'occasion maintenant de faire le passage de, c'est quoi, c'est 15, C4 et C15 qui sont le mettre en œuvre quelques aspects clés du budget. Alors, oui, j'ai hâte de collaborer avec M. Poilievre et les autres chefs.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Mackenzie Gray with Global News. Are you considering calling a snap election this spring?
I'm going to go back to the previous answer. What we're focused on is solutions for Canadians. So today's announcement, we'll be tabling legislation soon, very soon. We would love, and we think it's very important, to have collaboration so we can move that quickly through Parliament. So particularly the one-time bonus gets into people's bank accounts as quickly as possible. We still have elements of the Budget Implementation Act which have not been formally passed by Parliament, That's that tax cut for 22 million Canadians. That's the extension of the National School Food Program. That is a series of other measures that go directly to the issue that we're discussing today around affordability. We have the toughest tightening of crime legislation in living memory. It is being held up in committee, a series of bills held up in committee. We need to move forward on that, and so there's an opportunity to do that. All of that is an opportunity for the collaboration that's referenced by the Leader of the Opposition. This government is going to work hard, as we did in the fall, as we did last spring, in order to get legislation through the House.
This feels like many days we spent on the campaign. When I was covering the campaign, lots of grocery stores, lots of affordability. So you're not considering a spring election?
I don't. You can't draw that conclusion at all.
Tell me that.
Well, of course we're not. We're not. We're focused on results for Canadians. We're working through parliaments to get results for Canadians. We are securing trade deals around the world for Canadians, for the future of Canadians. We are identifying major projects for the future of Canadians. We are executing through Build Canada homes for Canadians. We're going to continue to do all of that. We have the privilege of a mandate from Canadians. And I'll say one other thing, if I may, Mr. Gregg. We were very clear when we ran in the last election what we intended to do. Very clear, very detailed platform, and we are delivering on that. And we invite Parliament to support us in it.
Hi, Prime Minister. Emily Haas from the Globe and Mail. How much will this benefit the GST credit? How much is this benefit actually going to cost overall, like these new initiatives? And as well, what's to stop grocery retailers from raising their prices to just absorb this benefit?
Okay, so I'll answer both legs of that, obviously. The first, in terms of the numbers, and I'm saying this is a test. You're testing me in front of my minister, who knows it down to the cent. But the cost the first year is a little over $3 billion, $3.1 billion, and the reason for that is this payment, the boost, is the way I referred to it, which makes up for. If you had overall levels of inflation and then food price inflation going like that since the pandemic, can you add a third hand? It makes up for the difference between those two lines. Okay, it makes up for this. So there's the bigger amount. Then in the subsequent 4 years, there's the 25% increase in the GST credit, and there's a bit of a timing thing. So, but in effect, it goes 3.1, 1.3 billion, and then about 1.8 billion for those last 3 years, okay? There's a timing issue we can provide you with all the background. Key point on your second part of the question. This is not a case of taking off GST at the checkout. Now, it wouldn't happen here at Protest Depot. Let's just be clear. This is not happening here at Protest Depot, which passes on savings to their customers. But what you described is a case as if you took off GST and then, well, maybe the grocery store doesn't give. This is money that goes to individuals. This is money that goes to individuals, directly to individuals. It's not based on what they spend. It's not tied here. Now, the fact, and they can spend that money on anything they want. It's Canada. It's a free country. They spend it on anything they want, as they should. Lower income Canadians, as you know, spend more of a higher share of their income on food and rent. So they're more likely to spend it on food. But there's no differentiation. I mean, they're not. There's no mechanism for what you're saying to happen.
I mean, my thinking was like, if you could raise price, you know that people are getting more money, and therefore you could just raise your price.
Well, you could say that about any aspect that grows the economy. So and I'll say as well. If I may, I'm not accepting the premise of your question, but your general point, which is around competition in the industry. And one of the things we're doing is reinforcing the Competition Bureau's oversight of the industry as a whole, plus working, and we have to work with provinces, as the Minister knows, to move towards unit label pricing so that you have a true and very visible comparator between two types of good. What is it per liter, per kilogram, per amount? And that's, particularly in this time of where we see shrinkflation, packaging change, amounts change. It's a very important development. So it's something I will be raising with the provinces on later this week at First Ministers.
And only a few pieces of your legislation that have been directly connected to your agenda have passed. So I'm thinking the most significant is probably C5. You're doing many things via regulation instead. I was just curious, do you think that Parliament matters, and what role do you think it plays in implementing your agenda?
Parliament matters tremendously, which is, I'll refer back to the previous question on the opportunity for cooperation in Parliament. And it's very important. The crime legislation, from tougher bail, tougher sentencing, protecting younger Canadians, protecting from online harms, protecting people who go to their place of worship or their community center, protecting them from harassment. All of that crime legislation is being held up. All of that is being held up in Parliament. You can't regulate any of that. Parliament matters. And that's where the opportunity is with greater collaboration. And that's why we welcome it. And we will work with all the parties in Parliament to help get the right legislation through for Canadians.
Dernière question est suivie. Yasmine.
Yasmine Mehdi avec Radio-Canada. Je veux d'abord vous entendre sur votre discours à Davos, à la lumière des menaces de tarifs de Donald Trump, qui vous a appelé gouverneur Carney. Est-ce que vous regrettez certains passages de ce discours? Est-ce que vous êtes allé trop loin?
Pas de mots. Non, pas du tout, parce que j'ai décrit la situation actuelle. Il faut être honnête. Ça, c'est la situation actuelle. Que quelques puissances, quelques grandes puissances utilisent l'intégration pour la cohésion, de changer les politiques d'un pays ou d'un autre. Alors ça, c'est la situation actuelle. Ça renforce la priorité, la nécessité de diversifier nos partenaires. Et non, et en ce qui concerne la négociation avec les États-Unis, nous avons un partenariat économique et sécuritaire remarquable. On peut améliorer ces partenariats, mais c'est une question pour négociation, pas de discours.
Et par rapport à ce que vous annoncez aujourd'hui, cette mesure fiscale, d'abord, est-ce que c'est une mesure électoraliste?
Non.
Et ensuite, expliquez-nous pourquoi ça ne fait pas augmenter l'inflation. D'abord, est-ce que c'est électoraliste?
Non, pas du tout. Pas du tout. Oui, parce que c'est un enjeu fondamental. C'est un enjeu fondamental. C'est une question de pouvoir d'achat, d'abordabilité de 12 millions de Canadiens et Canadiennes. Premier point. Deuxième point, c'est une mesure dans une série de mesures. Par exemple, nous avons commencé, le gouvernement a commencé avec la réduction des impôts pour 22 millions de Canadiens et Canadiennes et d'autres mesures comme cela. Alors, c'est une grande mesure dans une série de mesures. Il y aura des autres afin de renforcer et d'améliorer l'abordabilité des Canadiens. Parce que nous avons le bon plan pour renforcer notre économie, pour bâtir une économie forte. Mais ça prend du temps et les pressions d'abordabilité existent maintenant.
Et dernièrement, pardon, juste expliquez-nous en quoi est-ce que ça ne va pas faire augmenter l'inflation d'injecter de l'argent dans les poches des Canadiens?
Non, I mean, dans le... OK. Moi, maintenant, et c'est difficile d'être Premier ministre et banquier central en même temps. Alors, je peux répondre à votre question. Il y a une question de l'indépendance de la Banque du Canada et il faut être prudent. C'est une question de l'offre et demande et l'équilibre entre les deux, d'augmenter le pouvoir d'achat et le pouvoir d'achat de 12 millions de Canadiens et Canadiennes. C'est une bonne politique. Et ça va améliorer leur situation. Ça, c'est clair.
Thank you. This concludes our press conference.
Merci tout le monde.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Did I get my numbers right?
Yes.
I double checked them.